Good day everyone and welcome to Exile News, the weekly show that brings you all the important news and informations on Path of Exile. And it's been 2 weeks since the launch of Early Access for PoE2 and we're getting another pretty big update, which is probably going to be the last big update, at least until the holidays have passed, because the team at GGG of course has been really hard at work here, but it's summer holidays there. And they definitely do deserve some rest as well. So I don't think we should expect much more than this for 1 or 2 weeks at least. Anyway, there has been a couple gameplay feature added. So the first one is finally the fast travel possibilities between checkpoints within an area. And that is a very big one, especially in the acts. And honestly, only in the acts, because there are no checkpoints in maps. So yeah, this one is really cool, but it doesn't affect endgame at all. Although I do suspect when they will fix the fact that you only have one portal, which I feel like they will do something about. They might add a checkpoint, maybe at the boss room or whatever. I do also suspect, or at least wish, they added a boss every single map. Because honestly, bosses are the best part of this game so far, and yeah, when you get to the end game, there just aren't enough of those. Still, respecking has also been made much more economic, so that is pretty good. I mean, if they nuke your build because it had to be done, you can then respec for less, but also if you just want to try something different, you can respec for less, so that is pretty damn good. There's been a couple improvements in the, well, I'm just gonna call it Sanctum, because that's what it is. And yeah, the bigger one is that honor damage now scales down based on distance to enemies. So when you are in close range, you'll take 35 less honor damage, tapering off as you are further away from monsters. And yeah, this should be, I haven't tested personally, but this should be pretty good for all those melee classes. Of course, I'm talking about mostly the warrior, a bit of the monk as well, but the monk has better abilities like more move speed in general, since it's on the dexterity part of the skill tree, and some ranged weapons also being much faster with the attack speed. So yeah, still a great improvement, so hopefully that's much better. And a couple other improvements to bosses and monsters in there, which, I mean, hopefully they're going to end up helping players, even though, to be honest, I just don't like and do not support Sanctum as a mandatory thing, especially the way it has been done. I mean, I can understand one floor, 4 or 3 floors are just way too much. Anyway, there's been a little bit of balance to monsters in the endgame. One huge thing for players is the fact that maps no longer have the additional elemental resistance penalty applied at T6 and T11. So that really helps players with their resistances in the endgame. Also, chaos damage now scales less aggressively, and crit strikes from monsters deal 40% less bonus damage. So definitely improvement. The survivability for players has been increased a lot, and they also disabled the volatile crystal modifier on rare bosses or monsters, and yeah, that's perfectly fine to me. It was impossible to see it being placed. If you are only fighting one-on-one with the yellow monster, you can see it, but if there are any other monsters on the floor, you're doing some kind of, or any kind of graphic thing on the ground, in whatever, like, you cannot see these volatiles and you will die. Of course, it's basically an on-death effect. So speaking on death effects, even though it's not properly one, the purple explosive created by the volatile plants modifiers on the rares now deal significantly less damage. And yeah, I can see this one, why they did this. Like, this thing did a lot of damage, of course, being chaos damage. I think they are chaos damage, at least. I mean, they're purple, so I do expect them to be chaos damage. They're also very hard to see. They're kind of hard to dodge, especially if you get stuck between monsters or if you are in a narrow corridor. And they also persist after the boss or the monster dies. So yeah, that's why I call them somewhat of an on-death effect. And hopefully GG will just remove all on-death effects and just, compensate for the monster or do something, but the on-death effects are just really annoying, unless some specific monsters just have them built in as it actually is right now, and that is perfectly fine. That's for the players to learn. Anyway, also the Siphon Flask charges modifier now drains 10 times less flask charges than before, which at least they admitted it was unintentional, because otherwise that would have been way too crazy. I always ended up with 0 flasks when meeting those monsters, so it was a bit too much, and now it's been brought in balance, which is pretty great. There's also a couple of character and item balances as well. So finally, charms modifier on belts are substantially more common, and people thought that higher level belts will grant you more charm slots. Instead, you have to get the proper modifiers, which start from level 23 or level 64 for the bigger ones, to actually get more charms on the belt. And I don't know, I'm not personally a fan of this charm setup. You can also hardly understand when they are going off, how much charges do they have, and all the kind of things. So I like the idea, but I think the implementation is just not there yet. Electrocute is now harder to build up, and so is the difficulty of chain freezing enemies, though they're still pretty good, and definitely they are usable. It's just that they've been brought in line slightly because they were way too strong, and they honestly still are much stronger than stun and heavy stun. At least that's what I feel like. Also, a couple skill and support gems balance, like they try to improve Rolling Slam and the shield skills in the May session. Like the shield skills, some of those are actually pretty good. Rolling Slam I feel like is trash. Might be just the way I play, but Rolling Slam just felt so bad. I stopped using late at like level 1 or 2. Never felt like it did any damage, never felt like it was fast enough, so yeah, that's it. Shield skills though, kinda interesting. There's some improvements to bow skills, especially the one that generate frenzy charges. Some improvement to bone spells and chaos damage over time spells, so that's pretty nice. Some improvements as well for crossbow skills, especially at higher tiers, so that's also a good one. And improvement to underachieving quarterstaff abilities. I didn't know they had any, but honestly, probably because the overachieving quarterstaff abilities are way stronger. I'm sure everyone has seen one video or two of people just shattering everything and freezing and shocking everything. So yeah, quarterstaff is definitely one that received a lot of love alongside the monk class, at least as far as the Invoker goes. I'm not sure about the Chayula one. Still, they added 2 support gems. One is Tremors, which is going to give up to multiple more aftershocks to skills, of course with a damage penalty. And then the Bidding support gem and the exposure gems no longer penalize damage of supporter skills, and they have actual mana cost right now. There's also a couple very slightly nerf, one to Skeleton Arsonist, one to a very high level Tornado and Vine Arrow. That's because a couple of videos have come out. One is definitely from Jungrun, where, well, like a level 40 or something Vine Arrow was like obliterating everything. So yeah, the scaling was just a bit off, and it is now being brought in the correct place. And the Magnetic Salvo can now only use your struck lightning arrows as opposed to those created by your party members, obviously avoiding some tricks where just everyone uses the same skill and chain shocks the enemies. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty interesting. I definitely can see a great game coming out of PoE2, but there's a lot of work to be done yet. Some balance, but a lot of design decisions as well have to be reviewed, I feel like. Hopefully, with all the feedback that GGG is receiving, by the end of early access we are going to get an amazing game. So yeah, I guess that's all for this week, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and a comment down below. Also, if you want to remain updated every week, be sure to subscribe to my channel. That was all. I've been host Arzo, and I'll see you guys the next time.